Volvo had a plan, a genuinely great plan. They were going to build a small, affordable electric SUV, price it under $35,000, put it on American roads, and pull buyers away from Tesla, who wanted something premium but did not want to spend $50,000 to get it. For about 5 minutes in 2023, it looked like that plan was actually going to work. The EX30 was announced to a standing ovation. Automotive media went crazy. Deposits started flooding in. People were calling it the EV that would finally crack the mass market. Then, over the next 2 years, everything fell apart in the most predictable and frustrating way possible. And last week, Volvo quietly walked up to their cheapest, fastest, most exciting SUV and pulled the plug entirely. Done. Dead. No more EX30 in America. Here is what the press release will not tell you. Here is what happened behind the scenes that turned a $35,000 dream into a $48,000 nightmare and ultimately a canceled car. Because this is not just a story about one Volvo SUV. This is a story about tariffs, politics, corporate miscalculation, and exactly why Americans keep getting deprived of the affordable electric cars the rest of the world is driving right now. Let's start from the beginning, because the beginning is where it all went wrong. The promise, June 2023. Volvo unveils the X30 globally, and I want you to understand what the reaction was like, because it was genuinely historic for Volvo. This was a company that had been selling six-figure luxury SUVs for years, gradually drifting upmarket and away from the average buyer. The EX30 was supposed to be the return ticket. Volvo said flat out, this car will start under $35,000 in America, not around $35,000. Not in the low to mid-30s, under $35,000. From a luxury Scandinavian brand known for safety and quality in an electric vehicle that could do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. That last detail is worth repeating, 3.4 seconds. That is BMW M3 territory. That is faster than a Porsche Macan GTS. And Volvo was going to sell it for less than a fully loaded Honda CR-V. If that sounds too good to be true, it is because it was. The EX30 was built on Geely's SEA2 platform. You may not know the name Geely, but you know their relationship. China's Geely Group has owned Volvo since 2010, and the EX30 was always going to be manufactured in Zhangjiakou, China. That was the only way the math worked. Chinese labor, Chinese supply chain, Chinese efficiency. That's how you get a Volvo badge on a $35,000 car. That was the business model, and it worked everywhere except America. In May of 2024, the Biden administration dropped a bomb on imported Chinese electric vehicles, a 100% tariff. Not 10%, not 25%, 100%. Overnight, a car that cost $35,000 to bring to America was going to cost $70,000 before Volvo made a single dollar of profit on it. The math did not just get harder, the math became completely impossible. To be fair, tariffs on Chinese cars were not new. There had been tariffs of 27.5% dating back to 2018. Volvo's original plan was to absorb those, sell at a slight loss on early units, and eventually transition production to their plant in Ghent, Belgium, which would clear the American tariff hurdle entirely. That was the plan. A reasonable plan. The kind of plan a company writes in a boardroom when the world looks stable. But the world had other ideas. The 100% tariff collapsed that timeline. Volvo could not bring the single-motor rear-wheel drive X30, the one priced under $35,000, to the US at all. That version stayed in China. The only X30 that could even come to the US during the scramble was the more expensive dual-motor version, because the higher sticker gave them more room to absorb the penalty and still run a business. Even that version got stuck in limbo for months while Volvo tried to figure out what to do. Meanwhile, the rest of the world was driving EX30s. Europe loved it. Absolutely loved it. The EX30 became Volvo's best-selling car in Europe in 2024, with nearly 100,000 units delivered globally that year. Volvo had a hit on their hands everywhere except the one market where the politics made it impossible to sell the car at a price that made sense. When the EX30 finally landed in American showrooms at the start of 2025, it arrived like a guest who shows up to the party 2 hours late, wearing the wrong outfit, and immediately spills a drink. It was late. The entry price was $44,900. By the time you actually optioned one, test vehicles were landing at $48,395, sometimes nearly $50,000. The same car that Volvo had promised for $34,950. The one that was supposed to go after Tesla Model 3 buyers and Hyundai Ioniq 6 buyers. The one that was supposed to democratize the Volvo brand. It had somehow arrived as a near $50,000 car, competing against the Audi Q4 e-tron and the Genesis GV60. Two completely different markets, two completely different buyers. And the EX30 was no longer the underdog challenger. It was an overpriced compact competing against more spacious, longer-range vehicles at the same price point. The reviews reflected that reality. Multiple publications noticed that the back seat was essentially unusable for adults. The cargo space behind the rear seats was just 12.4 cubic feet. That's less than a Toyota Corolla's trunk. And the infotainment, a 12.3-inch floating tablet that Volvo made the centerpiece of the interior, quickly became the car's Achilles heel. Edmunds bought an EX30 for their long-term test fleet and spent months living with it. Their conclusion, published just weeks before Volvo pulled the plug, was not kind. They called it an absolute tech nightmare. Software bugs, glitches, infuriating quirks. The kind of problems that are particularly damaging when your $48,000 car needs to justify its price against rivals at the same money. And then, right in the middle of all that, came the battery recall. The recall that nobody needed. 40,000 EX30s globally were recalled due to a potential battery fire risk. Not a theoretical risk, not a possibility someone dreamed up in a worst-case scenario meeting. 7 vehicles had already caught fire. Volvo issued the recall in early 2026. The United States was largely spared the volume. Only about 40 American units were affected because there simply were not that many EX30s on American roads. Out of the roughly 5,400 units sold in the United States throughout all of 2025, the recall impact was limited, but the optics could not have been worse for a car already struggling to make its case. You have a car that arrived late, a car that arrived significantly more expensive than promised, a car with documented software problems, and now a battery recall. And none of it was really Volvo's fault in the sense of an engineer making a bad decision. It was a cascade of external forces slowly dismantling a great product's chances in one specific market. But the outcome is the same either way. The car did not work in America. The final kill shot. On March 13, 2026, Volvo informed dealers that the EX30 and the EX30 Cross Country, the more rugged variant they had only just introduced for 2026, would both be discontinued in the United States market after the current model year. Dealers had until March 20th to place their final orders. Production for the United States will wind down after summer 2026. Volvo's official statement cited shifting market conditions and financial factors. Corporate speak for this is that the model does not make money and the company cannot see a path where it does, which, to their credit, is the honest answer, even if they wrapped it in careful language. Here's what changed the calculation permanently. In addition to the ongoing tariff situation, the federal $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit was eliminated for buyers of the EX30. Because it was manufactured in Belgium, not in North America, it never qualified for the purchase credit under the Inflation Reduction Act to begin with. And when the Trump administration rolled back broader electric vehicle incentives and gutted the emissions regulations that gave automakers financial reasons to push electric vehicles aggressively, the last structural support under the EX30's business case in the United States disappeared. Volvo ran the numbers. The numbers came back negative. The car is dead. And here is the part that should genuinely frustrate you. The EX30 is still very much alive everywhere else. Canada is getting it. Mexico is getting it. Europe, where it was already the most popular Volvo sold, keeps getting it. The car did not fail globally. The car did not fail as a product. The car was killed, specifically and surgically, in the United States by a combination of trade policy, political reversals, and a business environment that made it economically irrational to keep selling it here. What this actually means. Let's be direct about what we lost here, because I don't think enough people are talking about it clearly. The EX30, even with all its flaws, was the quickest car Volvo has ever made. 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds in the dual-motor version. That is a supercar number in an SUV smaller than a Honda HR-V. The handling was genuinely good. The Scandinavian design was striking in a segment full of cars that all look identical. The safety tech was class-leading because it's Volvo and that's what they do. Fast charging at 153 kilowatts meant you were back on the road in under 30 minutes from a low state of charge. This was not a bad car. It was a compromised car that couldn't survive the specific economic environment it was forced to compete in. That's a different thing, and the casualty isn't just Volvo's lineup. Americans are now left with a luxury electric vehicle market that clusters almost entirely above $45,000, with the most compelling affordable alternatives being the Chevrolet Equinox electric vehicle, the Hyundai Kona electric, and whatever remains of the Nissan Leaf. The X30 would have been a genuine option for someone who wanted premium quality, European design, and electric vehicle efficiency at a fair price. That option is gone now. Volvo isn't walking away from electric vehicles. The EX90, their massive three-row flagship electric vehicle, continues. The new EX60 is coming to the US later in 2026, a mid-size option that promises better range and sizing that fits American expectations more naturally. Volvo is betting the US market wants bigger, and they're probably right based on what sells here. But the EX30's failure is a symptom of a structural problem that will not be fixed by selling larger SUVs. It's a problem of policy making. Affordable electric vehicles economically impossible in a market where gas is cheap and incentives have evaporated. The bigger picture. The EX30 joins a rapidly growing graveyard of electric vehicles that American buyers will never get or only got briefly. The Ford F-150 Lightning is gone. The Hyundai Ioniq 6 sedan is mostly gone. Honda canceled 3 upcoming models before production even started. The Chevy Bolt has a question mark hanging over its future, despite being genuinely one of the best value electric vehicles ever made. And now, the EX30. Every one of these cancellations follows the same script. A promising, affordable electric vehicle gets caught in the crossfire of tariffs, lost incentives, gutted regulations, and shifting corporate priorities. Every one of them was a car that could have moved real people from gas to electric at a price they could afford. Every one of them is gone. Volvo will tell you their commitment to electrification is unchanged. And I think they mean it. They genuinely mean it. But commitment does not pay the bills when the math does not work. And right now, in America in 2026, the math on affordable electric vehicles is brutal for any automaker that does not manufacture in North America and does not have the scale to eat losses while they wait for policy to stabilize. The EX30 was a great idea executed well that arrived in the wrong country at the wrong moment in history. And that is genuinely a shame, because a $35,000 Volvo electric vehicle that goes from 0 to 60 faster than a Porsche was exactly the kind of product that could have changed how a whole generation of car buyers thought about going electric. Instead, Volvo has until summer to ship the last ones across the Atlantic. After that, the door closes, and your neighbor in Stockholm will still be driving the car you never got to buy. If you want to know which affordable EVs are still hanging on in America and which ones are worth buying before they disappear, I broke it all down in my last video. It's right there. The EV market is moving fast right now and not always in the right direction. Make sure you know what's still available and what's actually worth it before the list gets any shorter. That's the EX30 story. Like it if it helped. Subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.